If her dining experience wasn't above average or exceptional, they're not coming back. So the more details and the more astonishing things that I can give the female to talk about, let me tell you, those details go a long, long way.
Hi, everybody. We're back again. This is Diane Armitage with Bruce Russo, and we are talking restaurant revenue and how to increase that from the very beginning to the very end and all the way through. As you probably know by now, Bruce Russo is the GOAT in the restaurant design and construction world. He's created and constructed nearly 600 restaurants across the United States, and I've devoted 30 years to global marketing, particularly for restaurants, to help them with innovative strategies and concepts. Now, in all of these talks that we're doing in these episodes, our main focus is to do one thing for restaurants anywhere in the world, any kind of concept you may be. And what is that number one thing we're doing, Bruce?
Is to increase revenue and make as much money as possible.
That is absolutely right. And what we do here is we talk about pods of revenue in a lot of these episodes. Pods of revenue for your restaurant, because once you're able to divide it up and create specific strategies for each of the pods from design through build and into the operations, you have really got it going on. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yep.
Live and die by the rule.
Live and die by the rule. Right. Yep. So we've been talking about bars, and we haven't even gotten to the dining room yet. But we've been talking about bars, and we were talking about purse hooks in the bar and the strips that Bruce puts in that have the plugs and the USB and all of that thing. And I mentioned after we did our recording, I said, what's really important to me is I've got to have a purse hook at the bar, and I have to have a purse hook in the restroom. Absolutely. Now, this is paramount to women who carry purses. So, standard Bruce, equipment. Would you agree that this is standard equipment purses and standard equipment purse hooks? Yeah. So why is it so imperative to put purse hooks in a restroom?
Okay, so let me put my female hat on. I just got a bag. I paid $3,200 for it, and it is a beautiful bag. And it's the pride and joy I've worked my life. This is the first purse that I bought that was this expensive. And I'm going to go out of town and sport my new purse. I'm going to wear my new purse. Well, halfway through dinner, you decide you need to go to the restroom, and you're going to take your purse with you. And you've taken your purse with you, and you walk in this restaurant, nobody pays attention to the details, and you got a countertop that's full of water. Let's take it even one step further. You go in the restroom in the potty room, and the floor, is it water or just what is it? Well,
yes,
what do you do with your bag? Well, okay, so what do you do with that $3,200 bag? You're not putting it on your lap. That doesn't work.
You turn around and walk out of the restroom.
There you go.
Which I've done many times.
You hold it. Okay, so standard equipment on the back of the door, 2 hooks, one for your purse and one for your coat. A lot of
Very
times,
well done.
And they're different hooks. The purse hook is smaller than the coat hook, so you can tell the difference. At one point, we used to have these brass detailed strips and the hook was made to it, purse hook, coat hook. But they came redundant. So,
yeah, I remember those.
Okay, so that's on the back of the door inside the potty room. And then at the countertop, we put purse hooks on the left and the right. So you have a place to hang the purse, wash your hands, dry your hands, and then take the purse off the hook and go about your business.
Correct. I mean, honestly, it's so important. It is so, so important. And I mean even if you don't have a $3,200 bag, I haven't yet purchased one. I'm not really a purse person, but I do have bags that are several $100s.
But it doesn't matter. Any kind of purse. You can spend $100 on a purse. You don't want to set it on the floor because we don't know what's on the floor.
Right. Exactly.
And you don't want to sit
Now,
on a
what do you do?
countertop in the water. So
What do you do in the men's restrooms?
we do the same thing. We don't put purse hooks at the sinks, but we put hooks on the back of the door for their jackets.
Okay.
In the potty
And
room.
sometimes men do have men purses, you know?
They do. So
Yeah.
they can use the coat hook if they have a smurse. If they have a
A smurse, you call it.
A merce. I'm sorry. If they have a
A
merce,
merce.
then they can use the coat hook on the door. But at
Okay.
and then in the men's room and the women's, the toilet paper dispensers that we use are actual a 4-inch shelf because everybody has a phone now. So now you have a place for your purse, you have a place for your phone, and your coat.
Right. Very important to put those shelves in there. I agree with you completely. Okay. So now let's talk about designing the restroom. So now we've talked about the most important part, purse hooks, but let's talk about designing the restroom, and especially when it comes to designing regular restrooms and ADA restrooms. Now, typically, if you're constructing a brand new restaurant and you have the room to do this, do you do everything ADA, compliant so that you have a men's and a women's, or do you do 3 restrooms? How do you typically do it?
I typically design men and women's as full restrooms and both ADA compliant by design. Now, it depends what state you're in and how much square footage you use. I can tell you in the state of Texas, it's the biggest restrooms any place else in the country because of ADA. In a single stall restroom in Texas, and if you guys could just put your thinking caps on, the fixture wall, what we call the fixture wall, which is the wall that the toilet butts up against and the sink mounts to. In Texas, that wall needs to be 9 foot minimum because you need to have 36 inches. So it starts with an 18-inch spacing, then to the center of the toilet from the right. We're going from right to left. Then from the toilet, a 36-inch spacing, and then the sink, and then another 18 inches to the center of sink. So when you add all that up, that entire fixture wall is 9 foot. Then for depth-wise, you have to be able to have the 5 foot turning radius within the restroom in the clear. So typically, a single stall restroom in the state of Texas is 7 foot by 9 foot.
That's a big restroom.
It's a big restroom.
Yep.
Now,
wow, that's really interesting.
The next step, when you go to a 2-person restroom, that stall for the first handicap, the stall for the ADA toilet needs to be 5 foot 1 inches, so you have a clear 5 foot path, turning radius, by 8 foot deep. So because the door swing comes into play and how the wheelchair turns within. So 5 by 8 is what we typically make the stall in a 2-person or more occupancy restroom.
Okay. That's significant.
Yes.
And I know that we've been looking at restrooms that are not anywhere close to that in size.
Yes.
So, right. So another thing I'd like to ask you about is the flooring that you typically use in restrooms, because it's definitely got to be something different than anywhere else, I would think, because of water splash and everything else that's going on. So do you use a specific product?
Well, I like mosaic tile, something that's been fired China, say either porcelain or China. Porcelain is a good material because nothing penetrates it. And the smaller the grout joint, the better.
Right.
And then we get into the walls, and I typically like to put porcelain on the walls. I do marble sometimes, but the problem with doing marble in the restroom, the cleaning material, the cleaning products that the staff use to clean with typically burns the finish on a marble slab. So porcelain is my product of choice.
Right.
It's very durable.
Now, you put a lot of time and thought into restrooms.
Yes.
Why?
My reputation is all my restaurants have a very flamboyant restrooms. And it's odd because what's odd about it is you typically don't see a lot of money spent in the restrooms. Well, I played the other side of the coin to that. When you go in one of my restrooms, you can tell when a woman's been in a restroom when she's coming back to the table, and she gets to the table and she starts pointing, and she starts waving, and she's telling the people, you got to go in the restroom and see what they did in there. And it, it's just another thing for them to remember the concept.
Right.
They might not remember the server's name, or they may not remember the drink they had, or they may not remember the color of the wall paint, but I'll guarantee you they'll remember what the restroom looked like.
Okay. So what are some of the special touches that you try to include in all of your restrooms that make them so flamboyant, that make them so spectacular?
Convenience. So let me just tell you one. Here's one particular that comes to mind, that the men's and women's restroom are both round. Okay, and to take it one step further, all the doors are matched to the radius of the wall. So it's the doors and the walls are completely radiused. I mean, they're round.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Pretty unique. And then all of the marble wainscot that I put in the restroom was radiused. It was a group out of Italy that did it. And all the chair rail and everything at the 4-foot height is all fit to the radius. It's stunning.
Wow.
And you can.
What made you decide to do that kind of a shape of a restaurant?
It's a restaurant within the star of the Dallas Cowboys headquarters, and that's pretty high level. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, didn't you paint something on the ceiling with that one, or didn't you do something?
I put champagne bubbles on the ceiling.
In both the men and women's bathrooms?
No, just the women's. The ceiling in the women's is domed. It's domed at 16 foot to the center. And then there's a chandelier that hangs of draping crystals I think it's about 6 or 7 foot long. I mean, it's very stunning.
Wow.
Very stunning.
What about one of your other favorite restaurants or restrooms that you designed? This is interesting. Give me another one.
I think Truluck's. They're pretty nice. All the wall panels are all book matched, and I don't know what that means. What does that mean? So it's porcelain tile, but there's levels of porcelain tile. When you buy, the more expensive, the more grain they have in them, the more opportunity you have to book match. And book match means the grain runs this way, and then on the next pieces, it all matches. So when you walk in, it's very stunning because it looks like the entire wall came out of one slab.
Right. So it's a lot like, wall coverings, fabric wall coverings, and having that be perfectly matched. Right.
And I don't know if you recalled when you were in the office your last trip, all the marble on the walls in my office are all book matched.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to take another look at that. That's interesting. Okay. Now, there is another item that you say is very important to have in a restroom, and you call it, it's the mirror, but not just the mirror over the sink.
No.
It's a floor-to-ceiling mirror. Not floor-to-ceiling, but it's a floor-to-ceiling? That's typically what you put in?
In the women's restroom, yes, on the back of the door, we always put a full-length mirror. And then typically, as the door opens, we also put a mirror on that wall. Because we know the ladies like to have the last look before they exit the restroom. They have to have the full behind view those two mirrors give them
That's
an
right.
opportunity to do that.
Now, do you do the same in men's restrooms?
We just put one on the mirror on the door.
Oh, you put one in there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I like that because I think it's very important. I love the way you put your female hat on and think about this because you really want to, you're out. You want to look good. You want to continue to look good. The last thing you want is your skirt stuffed up in the wrong place.
Let's just take the
toilet paper
overall
on
dining.
your heel.
Let's talk about the overall dining experience, okay? Typically, the last stop that the female makes is to go to the restroom and powder her nose. Okay, so wherever they're going after that, even if they're just going home, she wants to look her best on her exit.
Well, even just walking across the restaurant, she wants to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why do I consider the female gender details so much? Well, it's been proven that about 85% of the dining experience is decided in the right-hand seat of the car. And typically the men's driving and the women's in the right-hand seat of the car. So
correct.
If the experience at her dining, if her dining experience wasn't above average or exceptional, they're not coming back. So the more details and the more astonishing things that I can give the female to talk about of, wow, they got these hand blowers that you don't even have to touch. And, there's hooks for my purse. And let me tell you, those details go a long, long way.
Right.
And the lights are bright and you can see, and my makeup looks totally different in that mirror than it does at home. You need to go in the women's restroom and peek and look at the lights so we can have those kind of lights put in our house.
What kind of lights do you put in a restroom?
Well, you put can lights to shine down, but you got to have lights facing this way. So you got a floodlight. You got lights flooding you this way and lights flooding you this way. It takes away all the excuses. And you can see 100%, 110% of what you're looking at.
Right. Yeah, well, that's good. I like that. And of course, you do the same lighting in the men's restrooms because a lot of men care about how they look as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They want to make sure that they're making a good impression when they're walking out of the bathroom, restroom as well.
It's no different. Yeah. And I'm not leaving you out, guys. Trust me, there's plenty of details for you guys too. So, the dining experience is it's an entertainment with food and drink.
Yes.
That's what people go out to dinner for. It's the entertainment factor that has to be by default. And the food and the drink is the amenity to that entertainment experience. Mm-hmm. That's how you design restaurants.
Right. And I've been in many situations where I'm in the restaurant and I may be having a good experience in the restaurant. I go into the restroom and I've suddenly changed my entire opinion about the restaurant.
Correct.
Because
what's the
if
golden
I go into
rule?
a restaurant.
The golden rule. If the bathrooms aren't clean, the first thought, I wonder what the kitchen looks like.
What is going on in the kitchen?
When somebody's in the potty room, they got up about a 30-second inspection time when they're sitting on the potty. And if they're not looking at their phone, they're looking at the corners of where the baseboard are. And if there's dirt and grime in the corners, we're sitting here wondering what your kitchen looks like.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not just saying that because we're in the business.
Yes. No, I agree with you. It was interesting in one of the hotels here in Laguna Beach. Both of our big resort hotels are stunning. So, but the majority of the hotel is shut down and they're planning to renovate, but they put in millions of dollars into the restaurant at the back of the hotel in a way to start creating revenue, of course. And it's stellar. It's a beautiful view. They're right on the ocean. They're right on the sand. And it's a really beautiful restaurant. And they had one of our highest end chefs there for a short time. He actually set up the menu, was the concept chef initially, worked there for a few months and then moved on. But the unfortunate thing was that in order to use a restroom, you had to come out of that, go all the way down the hall into what was becoming more and more decrepit of the hotel itself, and into the restrooms that have been there since, I don't know, probably haven't been renovated since the 80s. And that whole experience, I mean, you're spending, $200, $300 easily at the table. And then you're walking into this restroom that nobody has really touched. And it's just such a night and day experience that you think, oh, my goodness. And, and they put in a big, beautiful bar, and they had all the shishi, wonderful, crowds coming in. And I thought, how are they dealing with this, And that sends me to another point. What we've talked about before is not putting in enough restroom space in the larger restaurants or nightclubs and in this particular case, you've got this big, huge bar and you have this big restaurant. So I think their capacity is probably around 200, 250. And you have 2 stalls in the women's and 1 and a urinal in the men's. And that's it. That's all you've got on the main floor. And it was a very busy bar in the evenings, especially on the weekends. And I remember you telling me the story of when you were doing research on entertainment centers in Dallas, and the fact that you've got all these high-end people and, the in-crowd people showing up in this one particular area. So I'm going to let you tell the story because it was just so disappointing what they do.
Yeah, it's a facility that that was built. It was designed and built, and part of the concept is they have live entertainment 3 nights a week. And, with the patio, the outdoor dining, and the inside dining, it probably seats 500 people. And there's 3 potties for the women's and 2 urinals and a potty for the men. So when they're crowded, so I ain't got to tell you what kind of problem it is.
Yes.
So when they have concerts, when they have live entertainment there, they bring porta potty trailers. Now,
perfect.
It's very disappointing for me because, when you see female clients with red sole shoes and $4,000 bags, really? I mean, you're putting them in a porta potty trailer? Really? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? I mean, and
And we've talked about the difference.
Yes, it really bothers me.
Like you can go to an outdoor concert event and be in your sneakers and your, and have the porta potties or even the VIP porta potties that are like the fancier version, right?
Correct.
And you know that this is what you're going to get because you're out in the middle of a field. But when you're at a high-end section of town in a wannabe restaurant / bar entertainment center, that's just crazy. So if you were able to go into that space, would it be possible to redesign? I mean, you would be taking out something.
Well, see, and that's the sad part because, when I looked at it, the way that they're designed, there's no way you can expand them because in order to expand the women's, you'd have to take square footage out of the kitchen. In order to expand the men's, you got to totally move the bar.
Wow.
It's just a horrible design, period.
Do you think that they came in as a second generation or other and went into a space, or did they build it that way?
They built it from scratch.
No way.
It was designed and built that way. So there's no
Did they change their concept? We're going to change this and we're going to make this live music, or
they have
that's how they started?
The concept was designed and built to be exactly what it is to date.
It's extraordinary.
It is very.
It really is extraordinary. Yeah. Yeah. Well, interesting. Now, this has been very educational once again. So anything else that you want to add about the restroom factor?
Well, it's key, and where they're placed in the design is also key. I mean, you don't want to be sitting at a dinner table and hearing the flush of a toilet. And I've been in many restaurants where you can hear,
one of my favorite restaurants has a door situation where It's not as apparent for the men's restroom, but for the women's restroom, if they fail to lock the door, it's a single seat, so it's just one seat in the restroom. If they fail to lock the door properly, somebody opens the door, and not only are they surprised, but the dining room can see as well.
Oh, wow.
And so what do you do on the doors to keep that from happening?
First of all, you're not going to see a restaurant that I ever designed to where you're going to give you the rest of the restroom or the kitchen.
Okay.
I sit there for hours and I put lines from the seats to every door and so that tells me who can see what. And you have to, it's painstaking because a lot of times you can be just about finished with a design and guess what? Let's double check to see what the customer review is. And it's like, that's not working. And sometimes you got to start all over.
I definitely don't like to see anything happening in a restroom, but I don't like to see what's going on in the kitchen either, behind doors.
No, I can tell you I was just in Houston reviewing a site, okay? And in the middle of the dining room, they got a pair of 3-foot doors. So when the doors are open, it's a 6-foot opening. You can see right into the kitchen.
Right.
Right
and
into the kitchen.
And usually it's the dish pit.
And the dish pit was to the left.
Usually it's the dish pit.
Exactly.
So gross.
And customers, do they really know what the dish pit looks like after 300 covers? I do.
Yes, I do too.
It's not anything that you want to photograph.
No. But that's interesting that you put that much time and effort into where the last seat is in the dining room and making sure that they can't see into the restroom, they can't see into the kitchen.
Correct.
Now, do you typically, have you ever built it in where you have like a little wall or something where the kitchen is set back with a little hallway or anything? I know you do that with restrooms.
I'm a big fan of, I create like a zigzag to where, they have to walk around the wall to get to their work area. Then the same thing on the entrance and the exit. And the dish pit, I always put the dish pit, well, every kitchen I design is one way. You got dirty dish and inbound servers come in one door. And the dirty dish goes off to the dish pit, and then that server comes back and goes right in either to the POS, they go to the expo line or the wait station, and then they exit at the other end of the kitchen.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, boy, I tell you, there's just so much design work that goes into these things that people just so typically just don't understand.
No.
And when you're actually starting from the ground up, really understanding how you develop this and how you design your actual dining room in relation to these other areas is just absolutely vital. Absolutely vital.
There's no room for excuses. Let's put it that way.
Right. Exactly. Well, I was in a very, very large restaurant that was built from, they had taken over an old space. They put more than $8 million into the restaurant. It's a 2-level with a rooftop deck. Absolutely stunning. I think it's the most beautiful restaurant in Laguna Beach. And it probably seats, I think it's it's almost 11,000 square feet, including the roof. They have a bar on the rooftop, and then they've got a main bar down below, and they have a service bar in the second level. And the second level is more of a cutout. So they've got like so they can do conferences and private dining mainly on that second level. And on the second level, they have this prep kitchen that is stunning. It's larger than most of the kitchens in Laguna Beach, but they have no gas. So they couldn't figure out how to get gas into that second kitchen. And so they made it all electric. And so it's a prep kitchen and they have dumb waiters that are nicely positioned to move food up and down between the kitchen down below. But it was really an interesting design to look at because they developed it in such an interesting way. And the restrooms are all down halls, but there's only a single and a single on each level, and each level accommodates over 150 people. So if you actually had this place rocking and rolling, it would be,
It'd be
problematic.
a big issue. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, a lot more to talk about on that particular restaurant. I was interested in, they were marketing it as a 2-restaurant space, a 2-concept space. And that's when I called him and I said, so you've got 2 kitchens in the space? And he was like, well, no, we're not. Actually, we've got a... And I said, well, can you convert one kitchen? Can you convert the prep kitchen into gas, with a hood and all that sort of stuff? He's like, well, we couldn't figure it out. And I thought, well, they didn't hire Bruce. Bruce probably would have figured it out. But anyway. So anyway, just I kind of meandered off of that, but I was still thinking about the kitchen and the views that people have of the kitchens, and then how restrooms are down halls in some places, which is, preferable, but still they had an opportunity. In fact, what they did there is they had the men's stall and the women's stall, and then they had a trough between the two that was for washing hands and, doing all of that, which I'm not a fan of, because I don't want to do my lipstick and prepping my makeup standing next to a guy.
I could tell you the first community restroom that I did in Dallas was a kind of an Indian concept. And it was probably 15 years ago. And it got a lot of press because it was very common in New York to have that. But I did it in Dallas, and that was the main feedback. The women didn't like putting lipstick on or fixing mascara or whatever it was with a man next to them at the trough sink washing their hands.
Right.
It was beautifully done, just that, So now whenever I do what I call those community bathrooms, I enlarge them and put their own sink. I put their own sink and their own mirror. So it becomes basically a 5x5.
So they kind of have a little vanity, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah.
Little 12-inch sink, faucet, and a mirror. And, there's a whole line of sinks that I'm attracted to that are pretty unique, but they're very expensive. But, again, the statement that it makes, when men or women go in there because they're co-ed, like they just come out and they just shake their heads like, where do you buy something? Where do you get something like that? Yeah. All one of a kind.
Only Bruce knows.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you are one of a kind, Bruce. It is so much fun chatting with you on these. Yes, I think that it is such an education for everybody, and I love it. And, of course, we're going to get to operations, and we're going to talk about training, and we're going to talk about food, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things. But it's just so foundational to understand how to build out a restaurant in the first place. And, as you said in the very first episode we did, a restaurant is a manufacturing plant.
Correct.
And when people understand and recognize that, then you are building it correctly.
Correct.
For the most revenue
you're
pods
in
you
the
can
right
have.
frame of mind to build it correctly.
Okay.
Yes.
This is correct.
Very good.
Yes. All right. Everybody, I'd like to thank you for being here. We have yet another episode coming up next week. Just wanted to thank you, and please like and please share this podcast with your friends. And we will be back with you next week to talk about more restaurant revenue and your growth and your management of it. And we will see you then. Thank you so much.
Very good. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Bruce and Diane on this journey of mastering restaurant revenue. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps them deliver even more of what you want to hear. Until next time, keep refining your approach, stay passionate about your craft, and here's to your restaurant's continued success.